Hello, collective. I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. It's Sunday, so it's time for an entire week pull. Um, and I'm a little bit happier than I was from last week since it was pretty negative and it's my first week back after 2 months. But this particular week, it looks like things do get better. Okay. So basically, from today all the way till Wednesday, it's a little bit rocky still. So what's been going on for the last week is carrying on into the mid week, this coming week. But it does get better. Wednesday night all the way till next Sunday. The overall encompassing energy that we got was Yera, but this time it's in the upright. Okay. Now Yera in the upright translates to it's number 12 in their alphabet, but it translates to number 3 numerically. And what that means in Nordic, numerology, it's basically a holy number. It talks about the 3 brothers, the 2 other brothers of Odin, if you will. It talks about, the 3 Norns, which are the weavers of fate, just like the fates in Greek and Roman mythology, if you will. It talks about the 3 roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil, and other things. So it's well represented within, Nordic lore, but it doesn't give us anything really specifically other than the importance of that number to really focus on. Okay. It is a holy number, and it is the overall energy of this week. So that starts things off much, much better than the previous week. Now, however, with that being said, it looks like it's still going to be a bit rocky from today all the way till the end of Wednesday. And from that point on, it starts to pick up as far as the overall encompassing energy of those particular days. So let's look at what we have. Now, what does Yera mean? Basically, Yera in the upright talks about harvests and cycles, life cycles, the woman's menstrual cycle, moon cycles, everything rotates basically upon cyclic action, which again implies to me that there is a creative force involved in all of this, of course. There's just way too much order in things, no matter how chaotic they may seem at times, to not imply that there had to be someone who made that order, okay, or put that order in place. So again, it talks about reaping what you have basically sown. So whatever that you have put in place in terms of your actions, words, and deeds, these things are going to be rewarded, and you're soon going to be given the fruits of your labor is what it basically talks about. But it also talks about hope and happiness, as well as rewards, peace, commitments, and possible legalities. So if you are having legalities, this is one of the runes that tells you it's going to be a positive outcome for you. In some way, shape, or form. That doesn't always mean you're going to be financially rewarded, but in today's world, that's pretty much what it means. Okay, so it's a good rune. Now, in terms of magical connotations, we use it for creation. You use it in conjunction with your effort, your hard work, to produce that promotion you're looking for, or create that new entrepreneurial task that you're partaking in, or writing a book, or whatever the case may be, or even growing a garden. Anything that basically is creative, you would do it along with this particular rune to help manifest it. Now, the Sunday overall energy is Iwas in the reverse, however, and this is a powerful rune. It is the number 13 in the alphabet, 1 after Yara, but it translates to number 4. Number 4 in Nordic runology basically is stasis of solidity, waiting, things of that nature. Contains power, and this one of its chief creative uses or operative uses. In myth, we learned of the 4 hearts that chew the leaves of Yggdrasil, the 4 dwarves, Nordri, Osri, Suri, Vestri, and I'm probably butchering all the names, as well as 4 cardinal directions, of course. Now, I know that's a little bit out there for most of us. We're not familiar with many of the poetic stanzas and the Eddas and the poems or whatever that tell us quite a bit about the runes, Odin, the gods and goddesses, their many adventures and things of that nature. But I just want to share these things with you, and hopefully they'll evolve, and hopefully I'll find more information as I continue to study and look into these things. Numerology from the Mediterranean perspective, along with tarot and astrology, which also differs considerably in the Nordic belief system, are useful tools to help us to hone in on certain energies and possibilities and things of that nature. And I'm trying my best to, implement that, because I know in my heart that it was used to some degree in the pagan systems as well. Well, in particularly the Nordic ones that I'm thinking of, and the Celtic ones, Germanic, Swedish, Icelandic, all of that. So that whole general area of Europe. All right, so what does Aiwass mean? It talks about, in the reverse, stagnation, undoing, inactivity, tension, weakness, confusion, restrictions, and dissatisfaction. Okay, and although this may be implied towards, again, those people who are working against us, this also could be for the collective as well. So maybe things are at a standstill for you right now. Maybe things are, seeming to be tense. You're feeling a bit of weakness, confusion, maybe restricted or dissatisfied in your situation. I mean, we all have those moments in our lives. So that doesn't necessarily have to mean that this is the karmic energy we're picking up. Although I'm sure they are feeling this and far more. It could also be that of the collective. So for Monday, what we have is the rune Wunyo, and Wunyo is actually in reverse. So it's upside down, and Wunyo basically is the number 8 in Nordic numerology, and that's a number of complete manifestation of wholeness and perfect symmetry. Okay, its chief significance can be found in the eightfold division of the heavens. The 24 runes divided by 8. Okay, if you will. So, I mean, what I mean is you have 3 runes that represent each of those divisions. So, alright, so, and I don't have it drawn out, so I can't actually show you, unfortunately, but that's what they mean by that particular aspect. And it's the number of spiritual ordering. 8 is abundant in the mytho-magical lore, mainly as a way of listing things. For example, 8 was their number of remedies in the Havamal 137. You have 8 runic operations, and that's found in 144 of Havamal. And it's the 8 best things are listed in the Griminisma. I'm butchering this. I got to learn how to speak this language. 45, and they're all found within the Eddas. Okay, which is their poems and things like that, again, that tell the story of most of the Nordic mythology. Alright, so what does Wunyo in the reverse mean? It means dissatisfaction, misery, fear, impatience, being headstrong, sorrowful, maybe filled with strife, feeling alienated, a sense of delirium and intoxication, possession by other forces. This one here is definitely speaking of the non-collective, okay? So cross-watchers perhaps who are watching or spying, and cross-watchers are welcome in general. You might be looking into somebody that is in your life in a positive light. That's fine. But there are those who are watching who are among those that we're referring to, that are attached to us in some way, energetically speaking, and they have only the worst intentions for us. They're at a very stagnated place in their spiritual journey, so to speak. Okay, so the things that they think, say, and do are very low vibrational as well. But they're talking about a lot of negative energy to the point of actual demonic possession, if you will. So it's looking pretty serious for some of those karmics out there. And I don't mean to say karmic in a mean light per se. I'm just trying to identify, the difference between the collective who is really working in their spiritual, betterment daily versus those who are in their life who don't have their best interests at heart. And karmic is just the simplest way to sum that up. Okay, but I don't mean it in a mean way. It is a derogatory title, I understand that, but I don't mean it in my heart necessarily that way, just a way of differentiating the energies. Okay? Alright, so Wunyo is typically another one of the wishing runes. And basically it is used to invoke happiness. It's the rune of healing as well. It's especially, good at healing, for example, the torments of either the mind or spirit. Okay, you can use it to basically calm those demons in your head, if you will, and in your heart. So easing the symptoms of depression, and it is a way of lifting you back up. Okay, so some of the uses of that rune. Now for Tuesday's energy, we got Mighty Tire's rune, but unfortunately that too is in the reverse. Okay, so Tiwaz, as it's pronounced, is number 17, which translates to number 8, and I've just read to you what number 8 represents. So it's a number that is highly utilized in Nordic mythology, and again to the division of the heavens themselves. So it's also important, as was the very first rune for the entire week, which is number 3, which is one of their holier numbers. Well, 3 and 9. Okay. So what does Tiwaz in the reverse mean? Well, Tyre is the god of justice and judgment and things of that nature. I mean, he was a god that didn't fight his battles with magic. He fought with just, tenacity, his will. I'll just leave it at that. That one word describes it all. His will and belief that he was always doing the right thing. He was a god of righteousness, so to speak. And he was willing to self-sacrifice, do whatever it takes to do the right thing, is the moral of the story for him. So Tyre in the reverse, as we can imagine, is probably quite the opposite. So it talks about feeling listless, your energy being blocked, having questionable motives, blocked creativity, and that goes again with demonic possession or archonic energy being influenced. See, the dark side has no creativity. They copy, they steal, they never create from scratch. Okay, and that's found also within the Gnostic, mythologies as well. I just use the word mythology not because I like that word. I don't. I believe that there's a lot of truth found in it. So, but that being said, we find these types of things echoed in Gnostic manuscripts. But it also talks about lack of creative flow, mental paralysis, maybe over-analysis on a situation, which is making you spin your wheels. Again, strife, possibly war and conflict, That could be with, somebody that's close to you, your friends, family, acquaintances, maybe at work. It's hard to say. It's not specific. But conflict is part of that. Failure in some type of competition, dwindling resources, dwindling passion, and difficulties in communication, possible separation. So I hope this isn't speaking specifically about the collective. Now, bad things happen to those who are trying their best to do good as well. Again, those are lessons that somewhere that we are still in need of learning. Okay, so try to find as quickly as you can what the lesson is being conveyed to you is, and then try to make whatever corrections you need to in your life so you can get beyond that and start the healing process. Okay. Now in magic, it's used in combat situations, I should say. Physically, legal battles of any kind, and finding victory in any type of competition. So that's what Tiwaz is typically used for in magical workings and so on. Now for Wednesday, and this is the last not so positive day, and the last day that we're speaking specifically to and about the karmics. Now again, some of this could actually carry over to some people in the collective as well. Not the demonic possession and things of that nature. You're doing your spiritual work. Those are things you don't have to concern yourself with. You just keep doing the right things, keep your spiritual hygiene up, send back the negative energy. If you get any feeling that these things are happening to you, you should do it on a nightly basis, I believe anyways. Talk to your ancestors, talk to the God, talk to your spirits, talk to your higher self, whatever it is that you believe. Alright, so back to Wednesday. Wednesday is Lagus in the reverse. Okay, Lagus in the reverse is number 21, which again translates to number 3. And 3 is a holy number. Again, everything from the Norns themselves, who actually gave the knowledge and magic of the runes to Odin after he hung from the world tree for 9 days and nights, plucked his eye out, impaled himself with his own spear and all that. Basically, he sacrificed himself to himself, kind of a thing. It's strange, but it's metaphoric, and there's a lot of significance in these stories, as weird as they may seem to outsiders, people unfamiliar. But what it means is escaping temptations, greed, against one's own conscience. It talks about, again, lack of creativity, feeling in a rut, writer's block, things of that nature. But it also talks about fear, which is the opposite of love. Moving in circular motion, not going anywhere, keep going back around and around and around and around, not learning your lesson, basically. Avoidances, avoiding confrontation, avoiding the lessons, avoiding the karma that you brought on yourself, so you're just going to stay in it forever. Withering away, madness, depression, despair, perversity, sickness, and possibly suicide. So it's unfortunately, but we're seeing quite a bit about death last 2 weeks now, and I hope that's nobody that's in the collective that's thinking these things. As bad as things can get, and I understand that, trust me, I do. It's not that bad. No, you should never think to take your own life. Okay? We're here for a reason. We're here to grow. So as hard, as difficult, and as unloving, and that means not just a person, or it could be an entire geographical area where you feel just very much unloved in, you always have the option to leave that place. Now, I know that's easier said than done. And I hate when these tarot readers sometimes say things that, it's not as easy as you say that it is, or imply that it is. You're not going through that right now. Somebody in the collective is, so be a little bit more empathetic. Now, I know that lack of funds and things of that nature do have a way of um, precipitating an issue, making it even harder for us sometimes. But there has to be somebody you can reach out to. And if nobody else, then you can just reach out to me. You know, I mean, I'd rather that than, of course, you consider taking your life. Um, and I know that sometimes we don't have anybody else to talk to or anybody that understands us. I understand that too, trust me. So, and we're here to edify one another and lift each other up and encourage and help each other. And it's not an easy journey at all. I mean, again, if you look at all the examples that we have of the leaders on these, that the religions were, basically built around and everything else. Not that any of them sought to make a religion. They just sought to teach the things that they painstakingly had to learn on their own, even at their own, years of despair and trial and tribulation and everything else, and self-discipline and self-sacrifice. And they were just trying to help others so they didn't have to go through the same level of this type of suffering, and they could learn from them. He didn't mean to start a religion from it. And then, of course, once religion is made, then dogma is enforced and added, and it becomes something completely different and opposite than it was intended to be. At least that's my summation of things, based on looking at all of them. All right. So Lagos, again, it talks about things that are not very positive, and that will end our Wednesday. So again, Sunday through Wednesday, it's still talking about the karmic situation in particular. Some of this could actually be responding or reflecting, also, upon the collective as well. Going through some of these energies with the karmics is certainly going to lead us to making a lot of decisions that are going to be difficult for us. When you got somebody that's doing everything in their power to harm you in every way imaginable and harming your family, your kids, that's doing everything they can to harm you physically, doing everything they can to destroy your wealth and your livelihood, and it's enough to make you want to just reach out and smack a motherfucker, you know what I mean? But we got to think things through, and just keep in mind that we are supposed to be the bigger ones in this whole thing, and that doesn't mean you cannot fight when provoked. On a certain point, there is always a line, and we have to learn those lines. And once that line has been crossed, then you do what you have to do, always. And I know that, certain religious beliefs and dogma keep us from responding sometimes. They talk about turning the other cheek and everything else, and I believe that to a certain degree. I do. But even Jesus put a cap on it. He said, don't, forgive them 7 times, but 7 times 70. That comes out to 490 times. So even he put a limit on things. That's a big limit, but especially when you're talking about the same offense. But taking, the time to think it through, meditate, reflect, pray, and then forgiving somebody doesn't imply you have to take them back at all. So keep that in mind as well. The one doesn't add up to the other. Forgive them, give them whatever encouragement and words of advice you have, and then be on your way. And don't look back. Or you can do whatever you want. So you can always take them back if you believe, that's going to change anything. All right. But once somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's what I say. Now on Thursday, what we get is one that we had as the overall energy last week, but now it's in the upright. And Gibo is a good rune. Gibo translates to number 7, and number 7 in runic numerology is the number of death and passive contact. 7-night interval is traditional for funeral rites and so on, which they took very seriously. And it's often seen in terms of, Well, I'll just leave it at that, okay? Because other things, they don't really apply to you and I for the most part. All right, so there's not a lot to be said about it beyond that. It's not as magical as it is for Mediterranean numerology. But what it does represent is anything regarding gifts, gifting, reciprocity. That means a balanced relationship in whatever type of relationship that implies, whether it's partnership of some type, a love relationship of some kind. It also talks about divine unions as well. So somebody out there, you may be a divine masculine or divine feminine. You've learned all the attributes in terms of tarot of all four kings, for all four elements, fire, water, earth, and air. So by doing so, you become, if you will, promoted into a divine aspect, or that word is applied to. I mean, we're all divine in a sense. We all have that spark of divinity, or most of us. There may indeed be soulless beings walking amongst us, or empty shells, or those who have willingly given themselves over to the darkness. But that's a whole nother, concept. But it does talk about personal relationships and all things in balance, matters relating to exchanges, and including, again, contracts, things of that nature. So again, it's very positive. And in magic, it's used in terms of increasing the overall energy and power, positivity of the surrounding runes that it's used in. So it brings about great fortune and luck. Okay, so it's a very positive, energy from Thursday through. So for Friday, what we have is one we pulled last week as well. Now this again looks like a cross with the beam, horizontal beam, being slightly canted, and it represents the number 1 in Nordic mythology, which is beginnings and so on. So it talks about basically upheavals, risks, delays, wrath of nature, destructive, uncontrolled forces, of weather or unconsciousness, testing, trials, and controlled crises leading to completion, inner harmony. So again, it talks about things such as letting you know that no matter how bad things are, they can always be worse, one. And it basically helps you to lift yourself up, when the chips seem down and things are tough. That's basically what it tells us, that we know we're going to have obstacles in our life, but we are meant to get past them and through them, and eventually we will, always. It doesn't stay dark forever, in other words. Okay. All right, so that may not seem overly positive to most people, but it just tells us that even in a hailstorm where you relied heavily upon, the crops to survive, the hailstorm typically will not destroy the entire crop. It may destroy a portion of it, hopefully a small portion, but it could always be worse, where the entire crop could be damaged and destroyed, and so your livelihood as well as maybe your survival in those cases could be at stake. So that wasn't a great example, but it's the only thing I could think of it on a pinch. Now Saturday, the energy is something else that we pulled out last week, mostly in the reverse. This week it's in the upright, and it's Othala. Othala in the upright is the number 6 in terms of numerology. It's actually the last rune in the runic alphabet, 24, which translates to number 6. And number 6 is a number of vibrant life and strength. And it's used for either creation or destruction, like the god Jiva in Hinduism, for example. And basically what it stands for is home, house, dwelling, ancestral property, inherited properties, possessions, It talks about that which is truly important to a person or a group. It talks about group order, group prosperity. It talks about your land of birth, your spiritual heritage, values, experiences, aid in spiritual and physical journeys. Also the source of safety, increase, and abundance. So it's a very positive way to end the week, okay, for Saturday. In magic, it's used in basically to strengthen your family ties and things of that nature, your heritage. Anything that may be damaged or maybe separation or whatever that you wish to bring back together or heal in terms of your family, whether it's blood or whether it's your immediate family, one that you started. You can heal utilizing this energy here, okay? And used as a bind rune with algus, the one that looks like a peace symbol. You can use it to basically ward your threshold. You place it over your front door and it guards your home. Your home is your castle, so to speak. So that's what it can be used for as well. So that is the overall energy for the week, day by day, and overall it looks like it's getting better, but we still have some hills to climb. The karmics are going through it. All right, and again, we have to remember that they're just in a different place in their journey than you and I are. So we just need to try to dig down deep and find a little empathy. And I know in some cases it could be very pervasive, their karmic antics, and it might be very difficult to forgive them. But again, the golden rule, do unto others, you'd have them do unto you, is literally found. Every single religion, every world religion is found. So, we have to at least try to practice it. It implies that that is yet another universal law. It's what's expected of us in this journey. And it's not easy to do. They haven't given us any reason to want to forgive them or, to feel anything gushy-feely for them or anything of that nature. And sometimes we want them to feel just a little bit of the suffering that they've been putting upon us or wanting for us for the longest time. I admit I felt that way more than a few times. I correct myself. I put myself in check. I don't deny my feeling. I'm human just like everybody else out there as well. That part of me exists. So, these feelings are natural. But reflect on them, look at it, observe it, do it without judgment, and then make the appropriate decisions and actions to go along with that. And that's what we are here to do. And again, that is reflected in all the world's religions to some degree or another. They've taken artistic liberties once dogma has been introduced, of course, but they do that typically for control purposes. Institutions like the Roman Church, for example, or, in ancient Persia, the Middle East, same thing with them. And Judaism is no different, and the list goes on in terms of dogma that has taken what was meant to instruct and teach us, how to be better human beings, how to grow, up the ladder of spiritual progression and get out of this matrix once and for all, has been more or less usurped, perhaps by archonic forces. And as a result of that, we have a mountain of dogma that ties us down. It in many ways even changes the overall meaning of what was originally being taught. I believe that after looking at both sides of the coin in all these religions that I've been able to study so far. And I'm not an expert in any of them, don't get me wrong. Some of them I've dissected far more than others, but the point is that by looking at the good side, so-called, and the bad side, so-called, I've been able to come to certain conclusions about things and see both some of the comparative similarities, and of course the obvious differences in the belief systems. Some of them cultural, some of them are very much in terms of the dogmatic control systems that were set up around them at those times, or evasion of being found out, so they would be immediately burned at the stake or what have you. So there's a lot to be said, okay, about all of this, and I hope to be able to share some of the things that I've learned and continue to learn. I never stop. I just have a drive to learn, so, you know, and I'd rather do the things that are exciting and interesting to me than have somebody tell me the things I'm supposed to learn, which never have been all that beneficial, you know, to me in any way, shape, or form. So, with that being said, I wish you guys, you know, a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you again on Monday. Until then, stay victorious, and in the end, we'll all meet in Valhalla, because we are warriors. Don't ever forget it. Don't let anybody ever sell you short on that. You don't have to be the biggest, baddest person in the room, but your will can be as big as freaking Samson or David or, you know, any great warrior, Leonidas, Arminius, Boudica, and Joan of Arc. Bring a few women's names in there. I mean, they changed the course of entire nations, you know. William Wallace. And I'm just proud that I have heritage, both Germans, so Arminius, the Celtic world, so Boudica, and of course in Greece and surrounding areas, Albania, so, you know, Leonidas, as well as, of course, Spartacus. So I have a great deal of, you know, blood that comes from those areas. So I'm very proud of that. And I too am you know, a rebel, so to speak. Not in a bad way, but when I know something is evil, I know something is wrong, no matter what the majority says, I rise up in opposition. You know, the government tells me something, I don't believe in the government, or any government for that matter, today's world. I believe that they're all oppressive, and some of them are very good at hiding it, but they're just as, if not worse, as many of the others who are obvious, very obvious. Anyway, I'm preaching again. I can't help it. That's why, you know, I teach, because I have a lot to say apparently. So I wish again you guys all very best, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.